This question comes from Raphael, who asks, what if your shadow had mass? At first, it sounds poetic, like something from a fantasy novel. But let's take it literally. Your shadow exists because you block light. Light has energy, momentum, and zero rest mass. So, your shadow is basically a patch of missing photons. But what if that patch weighed something? What if the dark outline following you everywhere actually pressed on the ground? Let's start small. On a sunny day, sunlight hits you with about 1,000 watts per square meter. That's 1,000 joules of energy every second. Thanks to Einstein's equation, that energy corresponds to around 10 nanograms of mass. So if your shadow somehow kept that mass, it would gain about 10 nanograms every second or a gram every few years. Your shadow would be growing slowly and visibly, like a ghost gaining weight. Creepy, but harmless. But what if your shadow had real mass? Suppose it weighed as much as you do. The ground beneath you would suddenly feel twice your weight. Chairs would crack, floors would groan. Imagine 8 billion people each, with a second invisible self, pressing down on the earth. That's 8 billion extra humans worth of mass, appearing and vanishing with the sunrise. The planet's rotation would wobble slightly each day, as this enormous invisible tide of darkness moved with the sun. And your shadow wouldn't just sit there, it would have gravity. Walk past a cup of coffee, and your shadow might tug it slightly toward you. Drop your shadow on your foot, and you'd feel it. If you stood in a room full of shadows, you'd feel their pull, like faint, invisible magnets surrounding you. But shadows move at the speed of light. That means this dark matter duplicate could stretch, bend, and leap across the ground faster than physics allows. A chunk of mass traveling faster than light breaks basically every rule we know. The laws of motion, relativity, conservation of energy, all gone. So, physics would have a bad day. And then things would get really strange. Shadows collect in darkness, under trees, inside buildings, in caves. Over time, all that shadow matter would settle into the dark places of the world, piling up like an invisible ocean. The bottom of the ocean, already dark, would become a crushing layer of shadow mass, pressing on the seafloor. Buildings would sink under the weight of their own shade. At night, when light disappears, so do shadows. If your shadow vanished and took its mass with it, that mass would simply stop existing. The entire planet would suddenly become lighter by billions of tons every evening, then heavier again when the sun rose. Earth would lurch upward at sunset and slam downward at dawn. Every morning would begin with a planet-wide earthquake. And where would all that mass go during the night? It wouldn't disappear. It would move to the dark side of the planet. Invisible shadow tides would slosh around the earth, shifting gravity, warping the crust, and tearing at the surface as dawn chased dusk around the world. Eventually, the buildup of this mobile dark ocean would become unstable. One day, as the sun rose, all the accumulated shadow mass would snap back into existence at once, releasing more energy than every volcano, earthquake, and bomb on Earth combined. The surface of the planet would buckle. Oceans would leap from their basins, cities would crumble, and all of it, every last catastrophe, would start with something as simple as you standing in the light. So what if your shadow had mass? It would be more than creepy. It would be catastrophic. The good news is that shadows are nothing but the absence of light. They don't pull, they don't press, and they don't weigh anything, which is probably for the best, because if they did, every sunrise would be the end of the world.